So if we heard from her, got that issue possibly resolved, it's also an exercise, and I think it's an example of how one division, department, agency chose to approach a budget shortfall that none of these shortfalls are within any one individual's control. And so she was able to take very, very bad news, and she's had to work with it. So I would propose that we hear from her, deal with that, and then go right into what do we do with the other shortfalls, and where are they, and how are we going to hear from those individuals?
With no objection to that, Carmel, do you want to come up and? We pretty much know where we've been, so now we're just going to concentrate on where we're going.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Pinches, members of the board. I'm Carmel Angelo, the Director for the Health and Human Services Agency. Thanks for taking a few minutes this afternoon to discuss the agency. You know, today we are looking at serious measures to reduce the revenue shortfall in the Health and Human Services Agency. As I had indicated weeks ago, we have been actively implementing cost-cutting measures since July of 2008. In thinking that we would get to this point, we stopped hiring, we kept our vacant positions vacant, we eliminated extra help where we could, we eliminated overtime and retired workers where we could. And these measures saved the agency over $700,000 for this year, 08-09. However, with the state budget shortfall and with the unanticipated mental health audit exceptions for the years 2002, 2003, and 2004, as the agency director, I still have to stand here in front of you and ask for the authority to lay off staff. We have to be prepared for the worst case scenario. Well, of course, we're hoping for the best. However, what I'm asking for today is the authority to lay off up to 15 positions in merit system and up to 14 positions in civil service. Regarding merit system, as you know, we began a seniority study some time ago. But until this board gives me and the agency the authority to lay off staff in merit system, we cannot complete the seniority study. So with that, I have to ask for the authority to lay off, and again, the number is 15 positions in merit system. Regarding mental health, we know the ups and downs of mental health over the past few years. We also know that in many ways the mental health system is broken up and down the state. We're not unique here in this county. We haven't done anything that has caused us to be really as challenged as we are with mental health services here. Our crisis services are in the process of being restructured, and this will help to relieve the mental health deficit as well. So today I respectfully request the authority to lay off up to 14 positions in mental health. And in doing this, we plan to restructure mental health to more of a community-based mental health system. We continue to explore our ongoing cost-saving measures, and we'll be calling for more community-based meetings around mental health and looking at mental health delivery system models to see what would be the best fit for Mendocino County. So we just know in these tough times we have to be flexible, we have to adjust to the changing climate. We've been restructuring the agency through the direction of this board. Our restructuring efforts and our integration efforts have served us over the past few years. It was the unexpected revenue shortfall from the state that is challenging us right now. So we're planning on changing the way we do business to sustain our services. The good news is we have a plan, and hopefully with your help allowing us more options, we'll be able to move forward and resolve the issues that we have with our current budget for this year and for next year. Any questions?
Any questions? John?
You've identified that you're requesting authorization to lay off up to 15 positions in merit system and up to 14 in mental health.
That's right.
And do you have a sense of how successful you might be able to be in avoiding some of those layoffs?
Yes, thank you. I believe that with our merit system positions and with the work that we've done in social services, and in social services we have harder numbers, so to speak. So I do believe that we have unanticipated vacancies that actually have come up, and we've been tracking them since December. And I think with our unanticipated vacancies, and I also think with some anticipated retirements, it's quite possible that we will not get to the number of 15 with our merit system employees. With mental health services, I have to say that it's somewhat different. I think that when we look at mental health and we look at all of the problems with our mental health services here in this county and the ongoing financial challenges that we have had, I would say that we are probably at a point with mental health where we have no choice but to restructure and look at layoffs. I am not certain that we would get to the number 14 in mental health, Supervisor McCowan, but I do think that's worst case scenario today, but I really think that we have to have the option to explore that. I can also tell you that we're really looking at adult mental health services, and I think that it's quite possible that we may be looking at least half of that number.
And in social services, is there a possibility that layoffs can be avoided altogether, or do you anticipate you would still have to do some?
If we look at 0809, I would have difficulty laying staff off for 3 months, and I know that when we look at our funding deficit, that in order to try to get to the black, we're looking at all measures, and if it's a 3-month layoff, then that's what we would have to do. What I would say with social services is that chances are very good that we could avoid layoffs, and that is continuing what we're doing. We don't fill any vacancies. Nobody travels. There's very minimal overtime, only to transport clients. So we keep with the rigid measures that we've had for cost cutting. We continue with the unanticipated vacancies. We look at the retirements. It's quite possible that we may be able to reach the black without layoffs. Now, I hesitate to say that publicly, because if anything changes with the tapestry that we've put together to reduce this deficit in social services, I wouldn't want to be held to no layoffs. But at this point, chances are very good that we can avoid the 15 layoffs in social services.
And the reason those same strategies won't work for mental health is because we need to restructure even beyond the temporary cost savings that we're looking for.
Yes, and there are different funding streams. It's a different service in social services, and so there's actually more funding opportunities with social services. Mental health services is pretty much cut and dry, and because it has been such an outstanding and ongoing deficit, and I'm talking about an annual operational deficit, not even talking about a ledger deficit that is just ongoing because of the length of time it takes the state to reimburse us. I think that the challenges are very great in mental health, and that as we restructure, we're definitely looking at layoffs. Did I answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ms. Angelo, I know from reading your weekly staff dialogue, staff reports, that you've kept staff very involved in this process. I mean, through the MTO discussions, prior to that, the VTO discussions, and even the layoff discussions. I mean, I think that's the first arena that I heard layoffs that were actually being talked about in the workplace, and that you were engaging with staff. So I just wanted you to maybe comment a little bit on the process you've used, because to me it seems that, as difficult as it is, you've tried to keep people informed. So this information is not a surprise to your staff, because you have engaged with them. And maybe a little bit more to Supervisor McCowan.